Adjust the expectation, not the commitment. That's what we are going to talk about today. So, if you've been following my framework at all, you have probably practiced the notice, practiced the shift, aligned your behavior, and something went awry. That's life, right? You make plans and God laughs. That's one of my favorite quotes because it just is so true. You can make all these wonderful plans and then life happens and things happen and it's completely unexpected. And that's where refine comes in. Refine is the part of life where people don't post it on their social media, right? The part where things went south and we're not bragging about that. That's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to give you a little personal story about this past week and how refine really came into play for me while life happened. So before we go any further, I want to go back to the Better Way framework just to do a quick recap, because today will be the last pillar of the framework. And then we will start a new season of A Better Way, where we are going to just get into the meat of life and all the things that affect all of us on a daily and how this framework is going to apply to those things. So let's go back to notice. Notice had 3 moves: create a pause, name the pattern, and ask one question. So I'm going to create that pause to kind of look and see, like, what patterns or habits or behaviors are happening in my life that I want to change. You're going to name it specifically. So maybe it sounds something like that pattern of turning on Netflix and then grabbing the chips. I need to change that. Or maybe it's the habit of when you get upset, you start cussing or saying mean, hurtful things or whatever it is. That's naming the pattern. It's saying it out loud. Even if you say it out loud in a room by yourself, you're saying it out loud. You're noticing it. And lastly, the last move is you are going to ask yourself, is this who I want to be? You're going to answer that. It's very simple. Got 2 options. Yes, this is who I want to be. I want to be the person when I get upset, I want to cuss and say mean, hurtful things. Or no, this is not at all who I want to be. And then we go on to the second pillar of the framework, and that is shift. Shift is where you name the belief underneath the weighting. Why haven't you made those changes yet? Why haven't you done the thing that you need to do? Is it because you're afraid of failure? You're afraid of what other people might think? You're not ready yet? It's not the right time? What is the belief that's holding you back from making that change? And then you're going to challenge that belief. You're going to challenge it by trying on a new belief and saying, I deserve to have a healthy body. I deserve to be in control of my emotions. I can improve the way that I handle conflict. I am capable of having the business that I've always dreamed of. You're going to challenge that belief by trying on a new one. And then we talked about the third pillar, which is align. That is the action step. That is the behavior change. And with align, we have 3 actions. First one is we redesign our environment. We do that in order to be successful. So if we were changing our diet, we're creating an environment where there is nothing accessible to us that is not in support of a healthy diet. If we are trying to manage our emotions in a better way, then what we are doing is we are creating an environment to support that. So maybe you need a space in your home that you can go to when you start to feel those triggers surfacing, or maybe you spend some time daily listening to your body so that when you get upset, you know what it feels like. Whatever it is, you're adjusting that environment. And then you act before the excuse finishes with if then. So if you find yourself in a situation where maybe you can't eat a healthy meal because there's nothing available to you, so you decide, if I'm not going to eat a healthy meal, then I am at least going to drink 2 glasses of water and 2 glasses of water after. Or maybe it's, I want to go to the gym 4 times a week and I've only gone twice and there's only 1 day left. So if I can't go 4 times a week, then I am going to push myself harder at the gym on that final day. If then that gets in front of the excuse that you are going to give yourself, or that you're not going to give yourself, that you might try to tell yourself. And then action 3 is we're going to audit our calendar, because remember, our calendar is where we spend our time. That's what we've committed to. Those are our priorities. And on that calendar should be whatever you are trying to change in your life to line it up with who you want to be. There should be space and time in that calendar to support that. So that's the Better Way framework that we've gone over so far. And now we are on to refine. So refine is the part where we had it all written down. We had the plan. It was in the calendar, and then life happened, right? Something happened and it just didn't go the way that we thought it was going to go. So we need to refine. And how do we do that? Well, we do that by using 3 moves: review, adjust, repeat. So review is an honest look at what didn't work, what broke down, why was I not successful here, what did I miss, where did I not show up? And you're honest with yourself. No judgment, just objective data, just objectively looking at the situation and saying, okay, well, I think that went wrong because when I decided to go to the gym, then my husband called and said I needed to go pick up our child. And that was more important than this. So that's honestly what broke down. Or maybe it was I had already had a rough day and then someone upset me and I just defaulted to my old way of being, whatever it was. Adjust. So when we adjust, we don't adjust the commitment. We are committed to that change. That doesn't go anywhere. That stays. We adjust the expectation, right? We say, okay, wow, I had it in my calendar on this day and something came up and it didn't happen. So as much as I want to believe that that isn't going to happen again, the reality is that life happens. So I'm going to adjust when and where I work out, or I'm going to adjust how I respond after my behavior. Maybe if I find myself being mean or rude, then I will apologize and own that or what have you. And then repeat. We want to re-enter the loop of notice, because refine feeds into notice. So as we refine what we're doing, we're noticing where things didn't work. We're noticing changes we need to make. So it kind of loops back into it, right? So again, we're not adjusting the commitment. We're adjusting the expectation. So now I want to talk a little bit about the science, because I think science is so important. So a theorist by the last name of Bandura, he came up with the theory of self-regulation. And in that theory, one of the core pieces of that is self-monitoring. And that is where you review what you're doing. They're kind of like check-ins, right? You're checking in with how you're doing. So 15 years that I've worked as a behavior consultant, we use check-ins quite a bit with those who are trying to change behavior. And we did that at the beginning of the day, and we did that at the end of the day. What did I do well? What do I need to improve? And you just check in with yourself. And that is how you monitor your progress. And there's a 2-lever model with self-regulation. And that's either you adjust the goal or you adjust the behavior. So we all have a goal here, right? There's a goal that we're chasing, something we're trying to change in our life, and this is how we want it to look. And if that is realistic for you, then you don't change that goal. You change your behavior. But if you've noticed, I have this goal and this thing that I want to do, but if I'm being honest with myself, it's really unattainable. If you've ever heard of SMART goals, that specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Okay, that's a whole other episode, but that's a SMART goal. But you really have to make sure that your goals are realistic and there's something, like obviously I wouldn't say like in the next year, I'm going to be a billionaire. Like it's probably not going to happen. It's not very realistic. So I need to adjust that and say, in the next year, I am going to increase my income by 50%. That's realistic. So you adjust it to be more realistic. So you adjust the goal or you change and adjust the behavior. And that's all part of self-regulation. We have to be realistic and we also have to bring the behavior. You kind of gotta bring it. Like there are things that happen in life, but sometimes those are things that you can control for, or they're just kind of distractions that you could say, yeah, that'll distract me for a minute, but I'm still going to get back to it. So that is the science behind it, the self-regulation theory. So when you're trying to create a new habit, a new pattern, a new behavior, it's very fragile in the beginning, right? Because it's not automatic yet. I remember, little personal story, when I first decided, to floss my teeth every day, which I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't doing it every day. If that's gross, I apologize, but I was doing it like every other day, maybe 3 times a week. And the dentist is like, do you floss every day? I was like, oh, I floss every other day. He's like, oh, you should floss every day. And I'm like, okay, like who has time for that? And then I was like, I need to make time for this because, I don't want to lose my teeth. And so I decided to piggyback my flossing before I brush my teeth because I was like, I'm not going to brush my teeth till I floss. Plus, if you brush your teeth and there's stuff in it, then you get it out afterwards. It kind of feels like you need to brush your teeth again. So that took time to stick. But now there's not a day that goes by that I don't floss my teeth before I brush. It's just automatic. It is set in stone. If I cannot floss my teeth, like it's not a good day. Like it's not going to be good. So just a really quick other personal story. That was like one, but that wasn't the one I planned for. So I'm going to tell you the other one really quick. So the other one was that I went out of town last week and I took my computer, took my camera, took my lights, took everything to record my podcast. I was there for 7 days. And so that was the plan, is to get this podcast going, and also took some workout clothes because, I work out at least 3 times a week. And that was something that I was going to continue to do while I was there. Well, reality, came into play. I was with my family, very occupied. And so then I noticed that we're doing all these things and I wasn't doing anything for my podcast. So I sat with it for a bit and I had to say, what are you doing here? Like, what's going on? And I realized that I was there to spend time with my family. And my podcast is important, but so is my family. So I refined my expectation. My commitment was still there, right? Because here I am recording the podcast. But I had to refine my expectation just a little bit and adjust it to say, I will create all the content for my podcast, but I'm not going to record it while I'm here because that's kind of time consuming. And I'm not going to do that, but I'm still committed to getting some parts of it done. And when it came to exercise, I realized that we were staying up really late and getting up late, and then we were on the go. So typically, if I don't get a chance to work out, I'll just do 10 push-ups and I'm good. But I decided I'm going to do 15 since I'm not working out the way I normally do. And I found some weights in my mom's garage. They're on like 8 pounders. And I just lifted those like 10 times each. Doing something that works towards your committed goal is better than doing nothing. That goes back to that if then. If I can't go to the gym, then I can at least lift these weights. If I can't work out 3 days a week, then I can at least do push-ups every day. If I can't, have an intense workout, then I can at least challenge the amount of push-ups that I do. That's that if then that feeds into the behavior, which is the alignment. So just a quick recap. When you are refining, you are reviewing, you are adjusting, and you are repeating. That framework is like a loop. It just keeps feeding into itself. And again, we adjust the expectation, not the commitment. So it might sound something like this: notice, shift, align, refine, and back again. Moving forward, we are going to apply this framework into the meat of life, the things that most of us can relate to that happen in our life. If you need to re-listen to the episodes on this framework, feel free to do so. Next week will be question and answers, and then we will go into season 2 of the Better Way podcast. So thanks for joining me. It has been a pleasure. And I hope that this framework is helping you. Remember, if you have any questions or topics you would like me to cover, do not hesitate to DM me. I am happy to help you guys in any way that I can, because this is behavior-based wellness and it is my way of giving you a better way.